Mhm.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Estrella Virtual Visit Series. My name is Allison Campbell with Estrella Consulting, and I'm so excited to welcome Emily Holbrook from Ohio Christian University. Our virtual visit series is designed to introduce you to a variety of colleges and allow for us and you to get to know the institutions and their staff in a more personal way. So thank you, Emily, for joining us. Please just take a quick moment and introduce yourself and tell us how long you've been at Ohio Christian University.
Yeah, so super glad that I'm able to do this and be able to talk more about OCU. But I have been with OCU for about a year now. I graduated in 2023 with my bachelor's in business, and I'm just super excited to be able to, talk about OCU a whole lot more and to just share about what we're about because not a lot of people have heard about us yet.
Yes, definitely. I mean, being from Ohio, I've heard of OCU, but I think
Mm.
definitely for anybody that's out of state or maybe in like a farther pocket in Ohio that might not
Right.
have, heard about it before, I'm glad that you're able to give us some more insight. So, sounds like you loved it so much you wanted to stay.
Yes, I actually I'm from West Virginia, so I
Okay.
moved from West Virginia to Ohio a year ago.
Okay. So you went to school at OCU, being from
Mhm.
West Virginia, and then obviously now this is your residence now.
Yep. Mhm.
Can you give us just for those folks that are not from Ohio, where is OCU located?
Yeah, so we are in Circleville, Ohio. It is about 30 minutes south of Columbus, of course, give or take traffic and construction. Um, but it's really not that far from a lot of other bigger towns too, like Grove City, Canal Winchester, Lancaster. We're 45 minutes from Hocking Hills too. So if you're into hiking and anything like that, we're close to that area as well.
That's great. That's a good sales pitch too, especially for your students that are craving something a little bit more rural
Mhm.
or want to get into nature. Hocking Hills is beautiful.
It
Tell us
is.
a little bit about the size of OCU. So I have a feeling this is going to be one of our smaller schools that we have interviews with. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so we are definitely on the smaller side. We're a little over 300 students, and that's only on campus. But we just had our record-breaking freshman class this year, biggest class we've had in 5 years, of 145. So
Okay.
we're super excited about that. That may not seem like a lot to some people and to some other schools, but for us it's huge, and it just shows that our school is growing.
That's great. I mean, for many people, I mean, and I'm sure you get this all the time, their high schools are larger
Right.
than undergraduate or even their class. Their high school
Mhm.
class is larger than the enrollment. But, it speaks to probably a very specific type of student and, a specific type of student experience. So can you tell us a little bit about just like the mission of Ohio Christian? Like what type of students are you looking to attract?
Yeah. So, I mean, really, we want students that are ready to learn, wanting to further their knowledge in the profession they want to go to. But we are a Christian university, so we want to help students grow more in their faith as well. So we're also looking for students that want to grow more in that area as well. But we're also willing to work with students that don't know a lot about Christianity and want to dig deeper into it as well.
Okay, that's good to know. Sometimes we find when we're, speaking with schools that do have like a very strong faith-based background,
Hmm.
or even like the schools that are like traditionally like Catholic powerhouses, a question that
Hmm.
we always get asked is, do I need to be Catholic to get into school there? Do I need to be Christian to go to school there? So essentially you don't have to be, but if you're looking to explore that a little bit more in depth, or like you
Hmm.
said, grow in your faith, this would be a good option.
Yes, definitely.
Okay. So you mentioned your large incoming freshman class, which is wonderful. As someone who
Hmm.
used to be on the same side of the desk as you, I worked at a small private liberal arts Ohio college in Michigan as well. Just, it's essential and vital to the workings of your institution if you can bring in the right amount of students into your freshman class. So what
Right.
would you say from like recruitment standpoint, like what trends are you seeing? Are you seeing more local students? Are you starting to grow regionally or in particular pockets or states or demographics?
Yeah, so I would say, I mean, 78% of our freshman class was from Ohio.
Okay.
But we have from that class, 15 states were represented. But then also we had 8 countries that were represented this year as well. which is super, super exciting because our international students are growing as well. Um, so I would say we have a pretty good variety. Our female to male ratio for the freshman class was 50 to 52. So that's pretty good.
That's great. I'm just typing some
Yeah.
notes
Oh,
as
you're
well.
good.
Okay. So how do you feel that students get to like learn about you? How do they put Ohio Christian on their list?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm always super excited to, talk to students about OCU. I mean, I'm going to college fairs right now, high school visits. Really, I'm in travel mode right now. This is one of my days off from traveling. But it's just great to kind of get out into the areas and meet students and kind of just get to know who they are, but also where they're wanting to go in life. I mean, part of my job is to make sure students are, figuring out what's out there, but also, for me as a Christian, I want to make sure students are going where God's calling them. And if God's calling them to OCU, that's great. But if not, then I will help them as much as I can to figure out where they want to go.
So you would say that the exposure that, the ways that you're getting in front of students is through like the college fairs or the high school visits. Do you
Hmm.
find there's like a strong pipeline of students that come to OCU from maybe Christian high schools?
Yeah, I'd say we have a good amount of Christian high school students. I mean, I was one of them. I went to a small Christian high school, but we've got a lot of public school students as well. We've got some Catholic students in here. I'd say we have a good variety of students that come through. And I forgot to mention, but we also have campus visits as well that students come visit and get more exposure about OCU. But we have actually two different types of visits. We have the individual visit, which is more personal based, where you kind of get to select who you want to meet with, departments, and all of that. And then preview days are kind of like a day in the life of an OCU student.
Oh, nice.
It's a full day experience where you get to attend chapel, go to a class period, depending on if you're interested in studying, eat in the cafeteria, go on a tour, and just meet some amazing staff, faculty, and even coaches at the end of the day, too.
That's great. Okay, that
Yeah.
kind of leads me to my next question. Do you have athletics at OCU?
We do. We actually have several different athletic programs. We've got co-ed sports that are like track and cross country. Those are both co-ed. Of course, we've got volleyball, basketball, soccer. Um, we just added disc golf and esports as well.
Okay.
Um, so those are newer. Baseball, softball, golf.
What about
Um,
football?
we do not have football.
That'd be really hard to field a football team with only 300 students on campus.
Yeah, it's definitely a harder sport to achieve, but yeah, we do not have football. Um,
And are your athletic teams, are they NCAA, are they NAIA, or are they part of the Christian School League? Is there any
yes.
incentive to being a part of the athletics program as far as like scholarship goes?
Hmm. So we are with the NCCAA Division One in the Midwest region. So I always kind of say it's like a Christian subdivision of NCAA, but
Okay.
it's more of the um, Christian tournament side of it. But there
Okay.
still is incentive for scholarships. We do still offer scholarships. That's of course dependent on the coaches and what they have to offer. But there is an opportunity for that as well, depending on the sport and the coach and all that.
Great. Cool. Again,
Hmm.
like I had mentioned, I worked at a private university and very dependent on numbers, but also I worked in athletics as well. So
Oh,
I
okay.
understand the necessity of coaches being able to recruit because that does make up a large chunk of your incoming freshman class or your retention is
Yeah.
to be able to recruit athletes, keep athletes there. So that's a good piece to know because I'm sure if you were probably to look at your percentages for the number of athletes that comprise your student
Hmm.
body, it would probably be pretty high, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Very cool. What are some majors at OCU that you feel like are maybe really popular or like your strongest majors? And then my second part will be what is a major that's flying under the radar?
Okay. So currently our top three programs are business, psychology, and education. We also did just add biology this year. So that's a brand new major we have. So I feel like in the next year or two, it's definitely going to kick off. So that could be up in the top four programs. I would say pretty soon in a few years. Um, One that I would say is flying under the radar. It's kind of like a two programs, but under the same department. But it's emergency and disaster management and criminal justice.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah, I would say both of those are pretty much like they're popular, but like they're just kind of like right on under the radar. I think they could definitely expand more and grow more, but it's pretty specific, so you have to kind of have a general idea of where you want to go with it. But they're really good programs. We have a new um, dean, director, professor over it, and he's got a lot of really good ideas to provide more hands-on work in the classroom with that type of stuff and just like more getting you prepared and having a lot of experiences before you get into the field.
That's great. I mean, it takes being a part of something that is like an emergency or disaster situation to really be able to appreciate those folks and really have like strong professionals because you could be maybe a police officer or an EMT or a firefighter, but there are certain specific situations that require, certain courses of action. So I think that's an incredible program and something that is definitely necessary and probably undervalued. And I'm
Hmm.
guessing if you are really good at that job, you would probably get paid pretty well because they
Yeah.
need proficient people in those roles.
Definitely.
Okay, that's a really cool one. I haven't had anybody answer something like that before, so I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Um, all right, let's talk a little bit about scholarship in general. So we talked about athletic scholarship earlier, but from an academic standpoint, if a student was to apply to OCU, um, would they be automatically eligible for merit aid if you offer merit aid, or is that something that is like a specific application? Can you just talk to us a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So for OCU, for acceptance at least, we require a 2.5 GPA or higher to get accepted. And then anything between a 2.0 and 2.5 may require test scores and all that, but that's kind of like a separate acceptance conversation. But we do offer scholarships for academics, and those are based on GPA. So the lowest scholarship we could offer is a 3.0 a 3.0 GPA. And then anything higher than that, you would be eligible for scholarship for academics. So that could be 1,000, it could be 500. Um, and then our highest scholarship is that one is based on a ACT score. That one
Okay.
is a 28 ACT or higher. Um, but that is an $8,000 scholarship per year.
Okay, so for the highest scholarship available, you must submit a test score, but other than that, you would be test optional
Yeah, yeah.
or test
And then
required if you have like a lower GPA below your
mhm.
bar. Okay.
Yeah, and then the other academic scholarships are based on the high school GPA.
Okay. Awesome. Any other specific scholarships that students could apply for that are outside of what they would be automatically considered for? So what I mean by that is like if a student applies and again they just submit their standard application, it has their transcript on there and their GPA and their test score and their letters of rec, but maybe there's $1,000 for something faith-based or $1,000 for a specific major, like something that's any other OCU scholarships that are kind of like an additional opportunity for students.
Yeah, so I'd say that we have several actually.
Okay.
So one of them is called our service scholarship. This is our way of, rewarding any students that have done volunteer work on their own. That's something that we heavily emphasize community work at OCU. We actually have 2 days out of the school year where we cancel classes and go serve in Circleville. Um, so we want to reward any students that have done work on their own, volunteer work specifically on their own, and they could get up to $3,000 in scholarship per year. Which of course that could vary depending on what the student has done for volunteer work, but most students, can get something for it, whether that be the full amount or the smallest amount. It just varies per student, but that's an opportunity. We also have a Trailblazer Academy, which is CCP courses. But then if students take at least two courses with that program, maintain a 3.0 GPA in both, at least, they could get a $2,000 renewable scholarship every year.
Okay. So if they come into Ohio Christian with a certain number of CCP courses, it kind of like
Yeah, yeah, the
that's
CCP specifically through Trailblazer Academy with us, they could get that scholarship.
okay. So that's a program that you offer, Trailblazer Academy CCP
Hmm.
scholarship. Got it. Okay. So it
Yeah.
couldn't be like Ohio State or from
Mhm.
Stark State or something like that. It needs to be through you. Okay.
Yeah.
That's
And then another one would be our church matching grant. So this one is kind of like an outside scholarship per se, but basically, if the student has a home church and they want to help support the student in their college career, they could provide their own scholarship as much as they would like. We would just match up to 500 per semester. So
and
they could give 500. We would match 500, make it 1,000 per semester. Um, but that is up to the church. I always say it doesn't hurt to at least ask to see if it's an option. It could even be a family member's church if for some reason you currently don't have a home church. But that is another option as well to at least consider and look into.
that's really neat. So I mean, essentially they're putting out someone from their congregation to like further their faith and kind of support them on that path.
Hmm.
That's a really cool idea. I like that.
Yeah.
Um, okay. I have another question in regards because you kind of mentioned this with CCP. So I was wondering, do you have a large homeschool population?
I would say that we do. I think we're definitely trying to expand on that more. But I don't have any numbers currently on me of like how many homeschool students we do have. But I know, just graduating a year ago, I know a lot of friends that were homeschooled, and some of the students that came in this year were homeschooled. So I'd say
Yeah,
we have a good amount.
I find, I mean, Estrella, we've been trying to do a little bit of, deep diving into the homeschool population. We currently don't have any homeschool students that we're working with. We had school or some students on our caseload now that were previously homeschooled.
Yeah.
But we're finding that that's such a growing demographic is, the resources that are available for students to be able to do their schooling at home or, whether for like religious or um, political reasons, whatever it might be, they've decided that that's the best option for them. But we've noticed that more colleges and more so traditionally like the Christian colleges are very, very accommodating to the homeschool population. Because maybe that's like one of the
Right.
main reasons why they've decided homeschool is because they want to be able to like teach the faith, which might not be happening obviously like a public school setting. So I, was definitely had that on my list to ask you because I feel like we find a lot of the Christian schools are very open arms to homeschool population, make it very easy to make that transition for
Mhm.
those students.
Definitely. And another just financial aid opportunity that I wanted to talk about was we offer something called Scholars Day. So this is for seniors graduating this upcoming year, and it's an opportunity for students to compete for 3 full tuition scholarships. So there's certain criteria for it, a 25 ACT or higher, a 3.5 GPA or higher. There's an essay requirement, like recommendation letters. But then for students that meet those criteria, they'll be invited to OCU. They'll go through an interview process and then hope to potentially win a full tuition scholarship at the end of that process.
That's
Um,
great.
yeah, so that'll be in January. So that gives time for students to take the ACT, even SAT. Again, we do SAT equivalent as well, to see if they can get a higher score and anything like that.
Okay, that's really neat. Do you offer any type of visit grant? We've seen that popping up quite a bit. If students visit a particular institution, they might get $500 or $1,000 just
Mm.
for making that visit if they choose to enroll.
Yeah, so currently we don't have that at the moment, but I know this past spring we did do that. I think it was like a $250 scholarship, but we may do it again this upcoming spring. It's just something that we kind of, you know, offer it whenever we think we need to offer it. But currently, we don't have it. But
Like the
there's always it. Yeah, it could come up again. So
Yeah, I feel like we've found that definitely, if someone's on the fence about visiting, that might get them there just to check it out. And we're such
mhm,
big proponents at Estrella of making those campus visits, and we know that it's not feasible for everyone to make every campus visit, but
Right.
Again, working with a lot of students in Ohio, and we have two of our team members live in Columbus. There's
Mm,
so many options. If you wanted to go see, a small Christian-based school, you go to OCU. If you wanted to go see a
right.
large, enormous state school, go to OSU. So there's a number
Mhm.
of options for our students to check out, and really getting your feet on the campus is a really big factor we feel that our students need to experience. So we mentioned a little bit about your location being just outside of Columbus. Can you talk about how your students leverage Columbus, as far as, do they have job, maybe some internships, or you mentioned education? Are they doing their student teaching in Columbus? Like, how do you use Columbus? Because I think that's a huge selling point for folks.
Yeah. So I'd say it just depends on the student. But for some programs, they require internships, and it's kind of up to the student to find their own internship, of course, with the help of the professor guiding them in the right direction. But that could look like an internship in Columbus if they have the connection, or maybe if they live near the Columbus area, then they want to stay closer to home. They have that option too. For teaching, I believe, I don't want to say the incorrect number. I want to say we try to stay within the 40-mile radius of OCU for like student teaching, which does include Columbus.
Mhm.
Um, so I would say I don't know too many students that like, I don't know, I'm trying to remember the exact amount, but like I know some students that do student teaching closer to Circleville. Some students are closer to their home. It just kind of depends, but I think they're trying to stay within that 40-mile radius, which does include Columbus too.
Seems like a lot, 40 miles. That's, I mean, granted, I know you're more rural, but 40 miles, that's a lot of
Yeah,
driving, especially like in the
yeah,
morning.
but that's actually our that's actually our requirement, or not requirement, but for students that want to commute, they do have to be within a 40-mile radius of campus.
Of the 300 or so students that you have at OCU, how many would you say are residential?
I definitely say most are residential, but
Okay.
if I had to give an estimated number, I would say about two 250 or so.
Oh,
I
wow.
would
Okay.
say
That's great.
I might I might be overestimating a little bit because I know we just had a good amount of commuters come in this year, but I would say between 230, 250 live on campus.
Okay. That's great. That's good to know.
Mhm.
I think a lot of students look for, how vibrant is the campus life and the ability to live on campus, and having the option to commute. And I think, again, living off campus at Ohio State, it's a different vibe than living off campus at OCU. So if you are
Right.
someone who has the ability to commute, or can find a cheaper house on off of campus, but by the way you're explaining, like, kind of the togetherness and the community feel of OCU, it sounds like most
Mhm.
students just want to stay on campus because that's how they'll get to see their friends.
Yeah.
All right, let's round it out with one more question. I'll let you pick the question because I have like two ringers at the end. You could either tell me about your most exciting or interesting alumnus, or you can
Okay.
give me one fun fact about OCU that you think makes it very unique or special. So you can pick.
Those are both really good questions. Um,
If the alumnus one's like an easy one to knock out, then let's do
yeah. Okay. Um, hmm. I can go with the interesting fact.
that. Okay.
Um, so of course we are a smaller school, so you kind of you kind of guess that the class sizes are going to be pretty small too. But our student to professor ratio is 12 to 1. Um,
Yeah.
So basically, you're looking at class sizes ranging from, 30 to 40 students for gen ed classes. But then your core classes, it could be 15 to 20 students. I've had five before. So it really just depends. But basically, you're not going to be a number in the classroom. Professors really go out of their way to check in on you to make sure you're doing all right. And they want to make sure you're succeeding in all areas of life as well. I mean, I could go on and on about the professors.
That's great. Yeah, that small student to faculty ratio is so nice and makes those really wonderful connections that will even carry on beyond the classroom. I know I also went to a small school, and just, keeping in touch with my professors, running into them. I still go back to like the homecomings and different, activities that are going on campus, and you still run into people that will give you a big hug and know your name. So there is such a beauty to the smaller, tight-knit campus communities and just the accessibility to professors that not everybody has when they're in college. So,
Great.
good answer.
Mhm.
Well, thank you, Emily, so much for your time. It was great meeting you, and hopefully our Ohio paths will cross someday. But if you are interested in learning more about Ohio Christian, please feel free to reach out to Emily, and best of luck with your recruitment season.
Bye, guys. Mhm.
Thank you.
Mhm.